The two procurement nerds are back after I don't even know how long of a hiatus we've had. Primarily my fault. We've had a lot going on in both of our personal lives, lots going on at work. Dr. E, I think you've had like 5+ international trips already this year.
It's been
You've been
ridiculous.
you've been the typical jet setter. So we decided, you know what, it's time to connect again, and we have lots of random updates and things we want to talk through. Of course, there'll be an AI theme in a lot of what we talk about today, and want to give a shout out to Claire and Sophie from Connect House. They started their event company, gosh, a little over a year ago, and they're doing regional procurement events throughout Europe and the US. And Dr. Eloise and I were asked to come and do a live podcast episode on May 14th, which is coming up in less than a month in San Francisco. And we're going to do a session on data centers and how this is impacting people who work in procurement. Just about anybody in procurement is being impacted, whether or not someone is directly tied to a data center company.
It's yeah. First off, congratulations to Claire and Sophie. Really happy for them. They've really they for being a startup themselves. They've done a great job in the first year, and I've enjoyed their events. I've been to a couple of them. The Chicago event was fantastic, and the first one in Silicon Valley was amazing. So
Yeah, they had one. I didn't. We are recording on the 21st of April. They had an event last week in Nashville, and I had several friends who attended, and they described it as it was like a reunion, going and getting to hang out with your friends, which I love. But this will be my first Connect House event, so I'm looking forward to meeting a different group of procurement folks.
Yes. So shout out to them. And on some more somber note, I just want to couple of just call outs responding to Greg Tennyson, who just posted today that he's living with Parkinson's, and we're both really sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fair to say you and I are both huge fans of Greg. He's a Bay Area CPO, long time, really, really great guy and committed to the profession of procurement. And he's been an early adopter, and people have looked to him as this sort of person pursuing the North Star of digital, going back like 5, 6, 7, no, actually even 7, 8, 9 years, maybe even 10 years. I've lost track of time, but and just a mentor to folks, and I'm a huge fan of his, and he's just such a great guy. So want to know that we're with you, Greg, and thinking about you, and hopefully we can maybe think about bringing you on, and we'll do a fundraiser of some sort.
Yeah, our hearts are with you and your family, Greg. And one of the things that stands out to me about Greg is I feel like he has a really good knack for marketing, even though he's a procurement practitioner, which doesn't always go hand in hand. And when he was the CPO at VSP Global, the vision company, eyeglasses, I remember he did a presentation at a SIG conference. And one of the things that his team did to help break down the barriers and make procurement a little bit more cool and sexy within their organization was they developed a mascot. And it became like this really cool mascot thing that took off, and everybody in the company wanted to be a part of it and be involved. So that was like a really good internal marketing campaign and effort that him and his team did that helped people like and adapt procurement. So that's something that I always just, whenever I think of mascots now, I think of Greg.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, in our next one of our news items, we're going to talk about mascots at least briefly. So I'm glad to know that. That's great. So anyway, just to sort of say, Greg, we're thinking about you and sending you our love.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a little special episode like Dr. E said. So you may get a LinkedIn note from us. All right, Dr. E. So, AI is taking over the world.
Oh, indeed. Actually, so sorry, I forgot because there's two pieces of news we have to talk about. We the supplier IO acquisition of Tealbook. Stephanie Lapierre is a friend of the show and of both of ours, and that was a big acquisition. And I just want to mention it. Shout out to Stephanie, and shout out to Steph, who we love. And if we, we always talk about that picture the four of us took with Amanda back at the Spark conference in 2020. So Steph was in that picture, and so congratulations to her for that. I don't know any of the details, I have to admit, and sort of cynically, I expect that supplier IO will get acquired pretty soon too. But like good for Steph. She put in the work and the hard work, and she did it.
And I have a couple friends who were in the marketing department at Supplier IO for several years, neither with the organization, but they were there, I want to say 3+ years. And one of the things that stands out to me with this, and I don't know, I guess we call it a merger. I'm not sure what the
Yeah,
rebranding is
I'm
going to look
probably
like.
butchering, yeah, what it is, but they're connected now.
Yeah, I'll call it a merger just because I don't have a ton of intel either. So we're not sure kind of if they're going to keep individual identities, if they're going to consolidate into one. But I will say this is kind of a doubling down, showing the importance of data and data quality for
Yep.
organizations now. And so much of this is being driven by the AI hype and the AI craze, and organizations needing to be able to implement AI successfully. And it's very, very hard to do that if you don't have data that you can trust. And organizations that are not investing in data accuracy are seeing projects stall out, implementations are not happening. And so I think this just kind of goes to show the importance that data accuracy is having across most enterprises, and is a conversation at the executive level now.
Yes, no doubt. Speaking of AI, we had another high profile acquisition. SpendHQ acquired Sligo. That I know was an acquisition. I was quoted when it happened. And for those that know, I'm a huge fan of Sligo. I remember when Matt started it with just an idea, and I think, and it wasn't that long ago. It was 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years. It can't have been more than 3 years. But kudos to SpendHQ for really expanding for the future. I mean, it's a future-proof play, or it's a push towards the future. Can't think of what I'm trying to say here, but it's very much great for them. It gives them a real legit AI platform, because when you look at Matt was the founder of Sligo, he's legit. He's got legit AI chops, and the rest of the Sligo team, Daniel and Mireya and Dave. Dave, I think, has moved on, but I thought it was a good acquisition, and they got Sligo early. If SpendHQ got Sligo early, and it probably worked out for both sides. But if you would have waited a couple more years, like that multiples on that, because any AI company now is going with clients is just going to like exponentially grow in terms of valuation.
Do we know, and I don't know much about this acquisition either, do we know much about how Sligo is how their go-to-market will change? Is it going to be fully embedded in the SpendHQ product? Is it going to be
Yes.
sold separately?
Yeah, it's pretty much, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I spoke at the SpendHQ conference like a month ago in Paris, and like I have this picture of the slide that Scott, the CEO, presented, and is basically like 3 layers, and Sligo's one of the layers. So while there might be sort of sort of some branding, as like this is the Sligo AI layer. It is a full sort of full integrated play. My words, not theirs, but that's kind of my impression, and that would
Yeah,
make sense too.
it always is interesting to me when a company wasn't born in the AI age and is integrating and
Yeah.
adopting AI into their platform, how that works and how that changes the go-to-market because it's not easy.
No, and yeah, no, I mean, and I mean, I've I've gotten this wrong before, but it's very much the tail wagging the dog because the future is AI, the like all the capabilities, which takes nothing away from Spend HQ or any other sort of generation 3 procure tech. But if you are Gen 3 procure tech and you're not built on an AI core, like you have to do something. And because you can't just add some AI modules, that's
No.
not going to get it done. And so I expect that my expectation, again, I don't know, is that what Sligo will bring is a competency to really drive that transformation of a Gen 3 to Gen 4 technology. And I don't say that pejoratively. That's the work to be done. And kudos to Spend HQ for doing that
I
and
feel like
acknowledging that.
we need a tally board as to how many mergers or acquisitions are going to take place in procure tech this year.
Yeah. By the way, I was doing some research, and there's already been a lot of quiet private equity acquisitions. If you go back to my spider map, quite a few of them have been quietly acquired by private equity. So, by the way, I promised mascots, and I stood up. I was at that conference, and their Spend HQ's mascot is Spendy the
Oh, is this
Fox.
the text you sent me from the show and said they're really incorporating their mascot well and it's helping their
Yeah,
marketing?
yeah. So kudos to Spend HQ because yeah, love the mascot and so I brought the little mascot
What do
Spendy,
we
I
know
guess
the
is
mascot's name?
Spendy.
Okay.
I think it needs to be renamed, but the costume is great. There are pictures like when Spendy showed up, everybody was taking pictures at DPW New York a couple years ago. Spendy was there, and it's a well done costume. It's a lot of fun and it's fun to take pictures because Spendy. I looked out the window at the conference in Paris, and Spendy was in the middle of the Champs-Élysées, whatever that main thoroughfare is. Apologies to the Parisians for messing that up, but he's out there in the middle of it. It was just hilarious watching this Spend Fox out there, and then he comes in, and everybody is to take pictures with him. So
I'm
it's a
looking at
really
their
well done.
website and they've got on their homepage, they've got a pop-up with Spendy's the fox head. And then they've got so they have him incorporated, it looks like, throughout their website and some subtle inclusion on the homepage even.
Yeah, so some much like kudos to them like for leaning into the mascot because there aren't a lot of mascots out there, and at least in the procure tech world, and they've done a nice job with that because it was not something that would be on my radar. You're a marketing person obviously, and you're probably more in tune with that, especially with Greg and VSP, but like it just doesn't like pop up on my radar or my awareness, and then all of a sudden, oh my god, like, hey, that's a pretty fun mascot. So
It's a fine line between being overly cutesy and
yeah,
having something that aligns with the brand and is, high value, but it can be a really great way to be remembered. So you
yes,
go to
and
an
by the way,
event and there's some trigger or something that stands out, right? That's something that people will continuously remember you by.
yes, and by the way, for those that are just listening, I've been holding up a little stuffed animal that the Spend HQ folks of Spendy that they gave out in the goodie bag. and I thought it would be fun to bring home. And my dog thought that was a great thing too. She was eyeing it. I think at some point she's going to try and steal it
So
and chew it.
Spendy has survived the house with what, 4 or 5
5
dogs
dogs.
so far.
Yeah. So anyway, so all of that preamble is there's a lot going on in AI. And so maybe we just do a little bit of a recap here on, I mean, there's so much in the news. Sarah and I have been texting back and forth as we've been preparing for this. There's just so much stuff. But um, I'll just start here by talking about a few things that have just like popped up of just in the news that have been like really hard. Like just first of all, like I'm too plugged into YouTube because every day there's some big announcement and it's just like driving my anxiety through the roof. A couple of points of interest, and one of these we'll talk about. So New York has put a moratorium on data centers. We'll talk more about that at the Connect House event. But I thought that was like, now we're starting to really see pushback. And one of our topics at that podcast recording will be that. Anthropic got hacked. So the whole Claude bot, OpenClaw, AI, like there's a lot of
exposed to the entire world.
I know, exactly. And sort of related to that, but slightly different, is the idea of data poisoning and the fragility of public models like Anthropic and OpenAI and the such. So like those are just three things that like deserve their own sort of episodes, because that I mean, like, what do you do with that? That's a lot to sort of just process on those three. And those aren't even my main takeaways or my main
I think
topic.
one of the interesting things is going to be how politics fits into the AI space.
Yeah.
And are we going to see one of either the Democrats or Republicans really lean into AI as part of their campaign messaging and push towards more regulation and more legislation as part of the next presidential campaign? So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think if one of the parties leans into more regulation, I think you'll see the data center topic become more top of mind. Yes. And more cities and states pushing for regulation to ban or limit data centers.
Yeah, and I think so. Bill Maher has, and you can check this out on YouTube. He had a monologue on Friday night about this AI topic, and he's very critical of the lack of regulation. And I agree with you. I think this is going to be a central point going forward in the certainly in the 2028 election here in the US, and also I think in the EU and other countries. What's interesting is this whole AI, data privacy, data sovereignty thing is very theoretical and hard to latch onto and get momentum behind. But you know what's gotten a lot of momentum is, hey, they're putting a data center in my backyard. I don't want that. And you're getting a real populist, at least here in the US, a real populist pushback on that.
Well, and it has to do with a big part of it is the natural resources and it consuming energy and water and things that they feel are going to harm the local residents.
Yeah. And I mean, just this morning, I saw an article that this was on my roundup of Anthropic just put in a mega data center in Indiana. It's run by Amazon. The interesting part about the article was that there's no NVIDIA chips in the data center. It's all using Amazon's chips, which I thought was fascinating. But the amount of power that I don't have the numbers offhand, but
it's
the
insane.
Amount of power, it would like power 1 million homes or something. And it's just like, whoa, that's just like, to say nothing of the water. They didn't give a number on the water, but it's usage. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And imagine just your average local resident, thinking and hearing about, well, what is this going to do to my prices?
Yeah.
And, once the data center is built, what does that mean for our community? And I think people are kind of in freak out mode and getting a little pissed and frustrated.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's somehow my YouTube algorithm and certainly my TikTok algorithm has got a populist slant to it for whatever reason. And unbeknownst to me, but yeah, the pushback, and it is across the spectrum.
Mhm.
I think one of the things we need is a Congress and political leaders that are under 60, because the folks over 60 don't understand this and they shouldn't be legislating it. But that's a different thing.
And that will be interesting to see how much some of the Bay Area tech folks get involved in this, right? There's a
Well, they've
big
already been involved. I mean, look at Donald Trump's inauguration. Who was there? Tim Cook, Sam
yeah,
Altman,
it was like the
Elon
who's
Musk.
who of AI companies.
Yeah, and they had more prominent seats than the
Yeah.
cabinet and all of Trump's people. So yeah, there's a lot going on. Can I just do a tangent on this, because then I'll have you give one of your, but and this ties in a couple. There was a joke going around that or sort of a meme going around that said, and I'm going to butcher this, but it was sort of like, great, I have dirty water and polluted skies because just so people can make videos of I don't know, monkeys doing weird things or something, and or putting like generating this AI slop was really the takeaway. But back to our AI generated content, one of the things I will say, without getting too far down the politics rabbit hole, the one of the weapons in this current Iran war between the US and Iran is Iran's cyber unit has been putting out these Lego videos absolutely humiliating the Trump administration
Yes.
every day,
Aren't
very
aren't they
topical,
creative?
so creative. And again, I don't want to get political here, but these guys, like, they've nailed the culture, the zeitgeist, the delivery
Geniuses.
format, the music, that like is high quality AI production, and they're just churning these things out 2-3 times a day. I mean,
Well,
just like,
there's so much going on. There's so much to make fun of and play off. It's like a creator's dream.
yeah. And it's made possible because of AI. Now, what I really want to know is what AI models they're using, how are they doing it? Because it's high quality video, and they're creating these amazing songs that are very, I mean, it's as if rappers are developing them. And then they did one that was a different style, and it's just like, how are they doing this? So,
Mhm.
anyway.
So I kind of make a broad kind of a statement for mind, and then we'll jump back into your list. So Dave Gerhardt is one of my favorite marketers. He ran marketing for a company called Drift and now runs an agency called Exit 5. And I really like the way that he writes content. He sounds very human, and when you read it, it's like you're actually talking to him. And so he has a great newsletter. I highly recommend for any go-to-market folks or marketing folks that are listening to check out. It comes out twice a week. He writes it himself. He's very clear that it's not AI generated. And one of the things in his newsletter today that I think is really relevant to what's happening now in the go-to-market space, but I think this is applicable to most folks, is he has a quote that from Seth Godin. And Seth's quote is, marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but the stories you tell.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I continuously notice is most people now can create a Lovable account or whatever
Mhm.
vibing tool they want to use, and they can build
Yeah.
where there was a big barrier before that you
Yep.
couldn't necessarily be a builder if you didn't have a coding background. But now that that barrier has been lowered or almost eliminated, probably by the end of this year, we'll say eliminated, that just about anybody can build now. So the building piece isn't that important. To me, I would argue what's more important in a lot of cases is being able to tell the story and communicate your market differentiation or whatever it is that you want to a specific audience that you're trying to target. So I think understanding and knowing how to and becoming a better storyteller is going to be an increasingly important skill in just about every single profession. And that quote really, really stood out to me. I actually have it on an index card now, and I've been looking at it all day because I think it's so relevant. So I just wanted to share that that's something that's top of mind and very just coming up over and over again in my world, but I think it's relevant to a lot of folks.
Well, funny you should mention that. I'm actually doing a storytelling workshop next week for a client. And I would actually add one thing to the quote and just sort of to the discussion here is it's storytelling plus authenticity, because it's easy to tell a story, but anchoring it back to, I think we're all going to get a lot more personal a lot more quickly, because that's what's going to separate the AI slop from actually
And I would add,
compelling.
I think good storytelling is authentic. So if
Yeah,
you want to be a good
there we go.
storyteller, you need to be authentic and it needs to
Yep.
sound like a human and not something that was AI generated. So I kind of tie that into the storytelling umbrella.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna actually have another news article that just I'm gonna build on your vibe coding, because right now vibe coding is so you prompt it, it comes back, and you're telling it, back and forth. Well, it's rumored that Google's big cloud conference is this week in Vegas, and it's rumored that Google Jitro, Jitro, is about to launch, which is the next evolution of this vibe coding, which is actually you tell it what the goal is and it builds the application. So it's not back and forth, it's you tell it what it is and it creates
So
it. So
you give it the end product and then it works backwards.
yeah, and it does all of it. So which is, and of course there's not a lot yet, but to me that's the next evolution that I've been talking about. But also, like, to see it, it's like, oh my god, this is like crazy, because it's, again, think about like procurement, like give me 10% off of my indirect, or my 10% off my IT services spend. That's it. I don't care how it does it. I want the 10%. No, obviously with some governance, blah, blah, blah. But that's like, this Jitro is really getting to the core of,
It's like
give me the,
it's like more of the strategy critical thinking piece.
yeah, yeah. And
I'll be
so,
very curious to see when this is demoed and how this impacts companies like Lovable, who have already kind of come in and mastered or are the leaders currently in the vibe coding space.
yeah, it's going to eliminate them. I mean, we keep, Anthropic just came out with Design Studio. Guess what just tanked? Adobe and Figma. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I mean, that's the thing with all these AI. We talked about this, I don't know, a year ago when we were doing the AI roundup. And as soon as the public models expand to include these things, it's game over. Claude just added video editing capability. I think, sort of my understanding of it, I haven't tried it, it's still pretty limited, but look at the roadmap. Like, at some point, all the video editing software is going to be in serious trouble as well. And, Adobe's one of those as well. So
it's the SaaS company scramble year. I feel
yeah,
like it's you wake up and you don't even know what to expect or what next company is going to be eliminated or have to do a complete pivot.
yeah. So, which in that context, OpenAI shutting down Sora's their video creation seems odd, but it's hard to tell what's going on there, or at least on the outside, I haven't heard anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, personally, just using AI for work, I am now loving Claude more than ChatGPT.
I know,
I was all in on ChatGPT, and now
same.
I'm a Claude obsessor.
Oh my God, same. I mean, I mean, I love Gemini and Notebook LM. And by the way, Gemini just integrated Notebook LM with the core Gemini product, which I is awesome. But and I was all in on ChatGPT, and then everybody's like, go to Claude, and I'm rolling my eyes, and then I went to Claude, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. And like, what was so yeah, it's they're definitely leading right now.
Yeah.
Interestingly, another news bit was Anthropic's fight with the U.S. government about the Department of Defense. I think at some point we should just bookmark that one, because we should do an ethics in AI, both from an enterprise point of view and also just this idea of, is it good enough that, like, I mean, because I believe that Anthropic can still be used by the DoD for data capture and analysis on those outside the US. And sort of like, there's these really moral gray areas that we haven't quite thought through with AI. So,
and you could argue the whole government feud helped Anthropic in a big way, kind of unintentionally, randomly, and it's almost helped propel and skyrocket their business and further give them market differentiation by being the leader in the safety space.
Yeah.
Versus, open.
I'm very skeptical of all of that. Like I'm a cynic, and so I think more of that might be self-serving. We'll see over time. I mean, again, look, Sam Altman looked like a genius and a really great philanthropist type person that's going to run OpenAI as a nonprofit and this and that and the other thing. Like you can already see he's turning into like the next Elon Musk.
Then you see all the societal disruption now, and there was a couple attacks on Sam Altman. Over the last, couple weeks. And so that's also a scary place to be and is never the answer. But I think you're going to see more people getting, lashing out because they're so frustrated about all the changes in the AI space and attacking the AI leaders.
Well, not only that, but I think I'll have to look this up. But in Tennessee, there was a councilman that house was attacked, or like bullets shot at it, or gunshots, because he voted to allow the data center to be built in that community. So it's all back to those data centers. And so and violence is never the answer.
No.
But I'm scared that we're going to see much more of it, and hard to get. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is in a fortress, and like his entire block is completely securified, like such that it creates conflicts with his neighbor. But like there's a lot of security there, so it's going to be harder and harder to get to those folks. But you can see it then cascading down to all the to council members, to people
who aren't billionaires, who don't have resources to have full security teams.
Exactly. And I think, we're way off topic now, but was it the United Healthcare CEO getting assassinated in just, like New York City and Manhattan? I mean, these are the kinds of things that, that's what we're like. I'm very scared, but we'll try to end on a more positive note.
So let's pull a closing AI topic from your list, so we can. So AI is not bad.
No, well, here's the one I'm most excited for, and I think this is so. I caught this story that Ray-Ban has this partnership with Meta, and that they've embedded Meta AI into, I forget what it's called, but into the glasses. And those are like super popular, back ordered, and Apple now is not only rumored, but will be launching their glasses in 2027. And I think this is that pivotal moment where we'll start to see the move to wearable AI versus mobile technology. And no offense to the millennials, but like the millennial generation was very mobile focused because that was sort of the zeitgeist of
AKA
that.
my generation.
Yeah, exactly. But well, I mean, my generation, can't even spell AI hardly. So, um, but we've been very mobile focused, but very much one of the things Gen Z has been eschewing all of this sort of hyper connectedness. But I do think there is a utility and function of wearables, whether they're glasses or watches or whatnot. So I think I'm excited about this. A million privacy issues, but for somebody that like me that travels and was confronted with people speaking different languages, which I love, like, which is great. But I keep thinking, boy, it'd be great if I had like AI in my glasses so I could understand what people are saying. So that's imminent. And I think that's pretty awesome.
I think the translation industry is going to be heavily disrupted, and a lot of folks
Mhm.
that are doing, translation are going to need to do pivots, because I think a lot of that will be solved with AI. I mean,
Yep.
I don't see how it won't be. I think there's a little bit, at least for me, of a creepy factor of thinking about wearing something that I know is likely not ever going to be turned off when I'm wearing it, and collecting data and sharing it with who knows who and where. So I think I don't know, how long that's going to take for people to overcome that, but that's my kind of hesitation around something like that is, when you're in your house and wearing something and everything you're doing and saying is being tracked. I don't know that I
Yep.
love that.
Well, and it's funny that's already become an issue from the Meta glasses because there was not to I'm trying not to end on a negative note, but Meta has been caught storing information,
Yeah.
private video, because they have people going through it, and you know very intimate moments like going into the bathroom and sort of other things like that. So and just private scenes within the with people's homes and with kids and with no oversight. So back to your point about legislation and regulation, that's clearly got to come. So, um, but on the flip side, it is a pretty monumental breakthrough, and
Yeah.
I'll say I'm here for it, but maybe with an asterisk of like I'm curious to see where it goes. Maybe that's a better way to say
You like to see other people test it first.
it. Exactly.
Alrighty, Dr. E, is that a wrap for
That's a
our
wrap. We
random
covered quite
AI
a bit
episode?
yeah, we covered quite a bit, but it was really nice to get back at this. Always enjoyable to chat with you.
Alrighty, well, we will be back soon. And for folks that are making their way to the Bay Area for the May 14th Connect House event, please come up and introduce yourself and say hello to Dr. Eloise and I before or after we are presenting.